Welcome to the information session for the Global Executive Doctor of Education, which the Robison School of Education offers in Los Angeles and Hong Kong and also in the Middle East. The mission of the Robison School of Education is to strengthen urban education locally, nationally, and globally. And we've been offering versions of the Doctor of Education degree for over 80 years. But we wanted to create something that would be equally accessible to anyone in the world and equally relevant to anyone in the world who is an educational leader and wants additional education and a doctoral degree. This degree is designed to help leaders address the persistent and growing challenges that educational systems all over the world face. And so we took everything that we knew about doctoral education and threw away the curriculum that we had used for some years in Los Angeles and created an entirely new curriculum built around the question of what kinds of knowledge and skills 21st century education leaders need. The result is this program, which is a low residency 25-month executive format program for senior leaders in education from a variety of backgrounds. The program is designed to create or prepare transformational leaders, people who can make significant changes in their educational context, whether it's an institution, a system, or even on the national level. And we do that by giving these leaders an understanding of the context in which education exists and operates, and we give them the tools to be innovative, creative leaders, to use evidence and research and theory to underpin their decision making, and to make sure that they understand the importance of the policy process and the role policy plays in shaping our educational institutions and the work that we can do as educators. The design of the program is built around 4 curricular streams, and I'll speak about each of those briefly, but in short, the first one is called Understanding Complexity and Globalization and is about the context for education around the world. The next is called Creativity and Innovation in Decision Making, which is about helping people be creative, innovative leaders. The third is called problem solving, and that's really the heart of the curriculum of the program, and I'll speak about that at length. And lastly, policy making, analysis, and implementation, so that our educational leaders are expert in the policy realm as well. All of this complements what we call the dissertation of practice, which is a rigorous individual doctoral dissertation which each student writes, and this is in a format split between sessions in Los Angeles and Hong Kong and the Middle East. The complexity stream really is exactly what it sounds like. It's about the very complex environment that educational leaders lead in and educational organizations work in around the world. It has to do with big metatrends like globalization, immigration, migration, poverty. But it also has to do with understanding the latest trends in education, what leads to high-performing institutions. How are institutions, whether in primary, secondary, or higher education, organized, governed, and financed, so that people have a really strong context in the kind of educational organizations that make up educational systems around the world. Creativity and innovation is a particularly exciting part of the curriculum. We utilize some aspects of what you might find in a business school, where entrepreneurship is a big part of curriculum, but it's always about the educational context. It's about understanding how creativity works, how to be a creative leader, how to identify and recognize creative, innovative practices in other societies and think about their relevance for one's own context. And so it's about helping people be the kind of transformational leader that we want to prepare in this program. Problem solving, as I mentioned before, is the heart of the curriculum. The dissertation of practice connects very closely with it. And this is the part of the curriculum where people learn about educational psychology, how people learn, how that varies by people's age or background, and how to promote the most effective kind of learning possible in an educational organization. But it's also about problem solving, organizational problem solving in particular. If an organization has a problem that it wants to fix, it has something new that it wants to do, it's doing something that it wants to analyze, then this is where students learn how to make those kinds of evidence-based informed decisions in their leadership. And I'll talk more about this when I mention the dissertation of practice. The fourth and final stream within the curriculum is focused on policy. Educational policy plays a huge role in what educational leaders do by shaping it, by confining it, by launching things that you do, and often by educational leaders seeking to influence the policy process itself and sometimes even change educational policies in their society. So this part of the curriculum is a stream of 4 classes where students learn about how you identify what your policy options are, how you choose the right policy, how you implement it, and then how you assess whether that policy's been effective, and if not, change it and re-implement it in a more efficacious way in the future. So that's an important part of our curriculum as well. In each of these streams, there are several courses, 3, 4, 5 courses over the 2 years that the program operates. The heart of the program is the dissertation of practice. There are a lot of unusual aspects of this, so I'll speak about this at a little more length than the other elements of the curriculum. First of all, we use what the Rasir School calls the thematic dissertation approach, which is to say that each student is in a group of 6, 7, perhaps 8 students who all work with the same dissertation chair, the same advisor. And in fact, they have the same dissertation committee of 3 faculty members who lead them through the work they do. And there's commonalities between their work in terms of the methodological approach they take so that students can collaborate with each other. However, each individual student writes their own individual dissertation. And so in that way, it's the end product is like a traditional dissertation. It's just the process that we use that is an unusual one. Students all write on real-world problems that actual educational organizations are facing. Often that's the student's own educational organization, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they examine a problem in another organization, but it's always a real-world problem, and the purpose of the dissertation is to develop evidence-based solutions for that problem so that the organization itself can implement those and improve in ways that they want to. And in effect, the dissertation then demonstrates the student's mastery of the problem-solving skills that they get in the problem-solving curriculum. One of the very unusual things about our dissertation approach is that large parts of the dissertation are embedded into courses. So a student writes, in fact, the first half of the dissertation in a classroom setting where the class is devoted to the first chapter, or the next one is the second chapter, and so on and so forth. And the student then writes each part of the chapter through classroom exercises, through other pieces of work that break the chapter down into small component parts and make it a more manageable process than the daunting task of just sitting down in a traditional doctoral program, solitary, looking at a cursor blinking on a screen and having to write a book all on your own. So instead, we make it a more collaborative process that helps students through from the first day. Speaking of the first day, one of the other unusual things about the way we do the dissertation of practice is that we start right away. In fact, on the first day of class, we start talking about dissertation topics, and we start talking about how to identify and articulate a researchable problem of practice. Over the first few months of the program, students focus in on their dissertation topic and conceptualize and select that topic. And by December of the first year, having started in July, so 5 months or so in, students are writing the first chapter of their dissertation. By 1 year into the program, they've written half the dissertation. And by 2 years into the program, which is the end, they've finished the dissertation and the coursework. So the entire program is 25 months from start to finish. The program schedule is unusual, and the subsequent videos will go into some of the format of the program in more depth, but essentially the program is for 4 in-person meetings a year. 2 weeks in the summer in Los Angeles, 1 week in the fall in Hong Kong, 1 week in the winter in Los Angeles. and then 1 week each spring in the Middle East. That repeats, and then there's a final week in Los Angeles. So there are a total of 9 in-person sessions for 11 weeks. In between, students have rigorous online, mostly asynchronous courses using our learning management system. Sometimes they have synchronous class sessions where students all over the world are together online and they can see and hear and debate and discuss with each other. But often they're also on their own time that works best for them with their schedules, doing the reading and writing that are so central to a doctoral program.